Okay, so a big mistake that a lot of manga authors make in their story is making their antagonist way too strong. They build up the antagonist throughout the story, give them a whole bunch of power ups, give them a whole bunch of boosts, give them a whole bunch of abilities to the point where it's like, okay, it's time to get rid of this guy. How are we gonna defeat him? Like we can't come up with any traditional or plausible ways for the protagonist to beat the antagonist. You know what I'm saying? So when something like this happens, what authors like to do is come up with sort of quick fix ways to get rid of the antagonist. One of these ways being some sort of sickness, getting the antagonist sick to where they're nerfed to the point where they can actually be defeated now, or something having to do with their mental state where they actually get swayed by the protagonist to be on the good side, and the error of their ways is wrong, so they're like, okay, they're good, and they kind of defeat themselves. Or the author could just get disrespectful and just be like, okay, we're gonna explain one thing in one episode, and this thing is able to beat the antagonist. It's like a magical sword that is able to beat him somehow. You know what I'm saying? The author could just get disrespectful if he wants. Now, there's actually a couple of, animes that I could think of off the top of my head that's done this. I could say Agnologia from Fairy Tale, I can say the Kishin from Soul Eater. I could say Aizen and Yuha Bach from Bleach. That's just some off the top of my head. Now, the author who actually did this the worst to one of their antagonists was Masashi Kishimoto, the creator of Naruto. He actually did this so horrifically and so terribly that, one, he actually contradicts the nerf in the story, and two, the nerf is probably the biggest plot hole in anime. Now, the antagonist in his story that he actually ends up nerfing this bad is Obito Uchiha. Now, Obito Uchiha being one of the longest antagonists of the show, he was the shadow leader of the Akatsuki, and he was working under Madara to hatch the Infinite Tsukiyomi plan. Now, during the final war arc in Shippuden, the Fourth Great Ninja War, in the battle, Obito actually becomes the Ten Tails Jinchuriki. He becomes the Ten Tails Jinchuriki, and with that power, he basically became a powerhouse. Even Hashirama just straight up said, yeah, he's stronger than me. I can't beat this guy. And throughout the fight, he was basically 1vXing the Shinobi Alliance. And I remember while watching that fight, I'm thinking in my head, like, why isn't Obito using Kamui? Why is he using Kamui in this fight? You know what I'm saying? There's multiple instances where he could have used Kamui and completely avoided damage and actually beat the entire Shinobi Alliance, So in my head, I'm thinking, why is he not using this? He can just easily win this fight if he would just use Kamui. And the conclusion I made up in my head was, okay, when you're a 10 Tail Jinchuriki, you just straight up can't use your Sharingan ability. It's the thing that made most sense in my head. It's something I came up with, and it just made the most sense in my head. Now, this theory I came up with actually got absolutely shattered when Madara becomes the 10 Tails Jinchuriki and actually takes one of Obito's eyes from Kakashi and uses Kamui to go into the Kamui dimension. Completely shatters my theory. So, him being able to use Kamui is a big problem, and it brings up the question, if Madara was able to use Kamui while he was the Ten Tails Jinchuriki, why couldn't Obito do it? And this is a question that I've seen that people have a couple of theories about, and the theories is absolutely just nonsense. A lot of them just don't make sense when you really think about it. One of the theories is he didn't have control of himself. He didn't have control of the Ten Tails power, which, like, there was a whole little mini arc of him, like it was a whole process of him actually gaining control of the Ten Tails power. It was actually signified with that picture of the old Team 7. When it was tearing apart, it signified, okay, he was losing himself to the Ten Tails power. He wasn't in the right mind state. Well, but when that picture came back together, it signified, okay, he gained control of this power, then he got the truth-seeking orbs, then he gained the power. He controlled the 10 tails chakra. You know what I'm saying? He gained control of it. It was actually a whole little process. So for people to say, yeah, he didn't have control of it, that's why he couldn't use Kamui, no, that doesn't make sense. It was a whole process. Now, another theory that people have is that he simply just thought he didn't need it, which is another theory that's just bull. You know, there's multiple instances in that fight where Kamui would have came, oh my God, it would have came in clutch. If he would have had Kamui during that fight, the show would have been over. And that's just simple. That's just facts. The Shinobi Alliance wouldn't have been able to beat Obito if he had Kamui. He could avoid all damage. That final strike they did on him to release all the Jinchuriki, they couldn't have did it. Because, boop, Kamui. That final strike wouldn't have meant nothing. So that theory is bull. Makes no sense either. So it's like, okay, why wasn't he able to use Kamui? And if you look at this for what it is, it was Obito needing to get nerfed. Now, I don't blame the author for having to nerf Obito in this state. He needed it. Like I said, if he would have had Kamui in that, in that 10 tail Jinchuriki form, the show would have been over. Giving Obito Kamui as a 10 tail Jinchuriki would have made him probably the strongest person in the show to date. So it's obvious he needed that nerf right then and right now. But the thing I'm upset about is how they went about nerfing him. Basically, not giving an explanation. First of all, the nerf is contradicted when Madara is able to use Kamui, but he isn't. And it's just no explanation given to why he couldn't use it. There's no process. There's no little mini section to, explain why he couldn't use Kamui. And it's a really, really big plot hole that I don't see a lot of people talking about. I even looked it up. A lot of people don't talk about this plot hole, but it's a really, really big plot hole in the show that could have actually, really changed the course of the show. If Obito would have had Kamui, the show would have been over. So, what's going on? Can we get an explanation to why Obito couldn't use his Sharingan ability during that fight? It's something that has zero explanation, and it's something that I always think about when I see Naruto. When I think about Naruto, I think, bro, they still didn't give an explanation to why Obito could have used it. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's one of the worst antagonist nerfs not even one of, the worst antagonist nerf that I've seen in an anime. It's the worst because it has no explanation, and it's the worst because it was contradicted. And what makes things a little bit worse, a little fun fact for y'all, the eye that Madara took from Kakashi to go to the Kamui dimension wasn't even actually the right eye. The eye that can move freely in and out the Kamui dimension is actually Obito's eye. The eye that Kakashi possessed was never shown in the show to move freely in and out the Kamui dimension, but Madara took it and was able to do it. So that's a little bit of a plot hole in itself too. People have come up with theories about that. Now those theories I can accept a little bit, but that is a little bit of a plot hole in itself. But the bottom line is, the way that Masashi Kishimoto nerfed Obito not only is the biggest plot hole in anime, it's probably the worst one in terms of a story standpoint, because it has zero explanation to it. I hope we get an explanation to it. We probably not, but it's something that's always gonna, I'm always gonna be thinking about when I think about Naruto. Dang, Obito could have ended the show if he would have had Kamui and 10 tail Jinchuriki. I'm always thinking about that when I'm thinking about Naruto. But anyway, that's pretty much the video. I hope y'all enjoyed. If y'all did, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, join the empire. You already know, helps me out, helps the channel out, helps the channel grow. I appreciate the support. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Drizzle Empire out. I'ma see ya.